Affiliate links in description. Tifa Lockhart, up $12.80. Landfall decks are picking up steam and doubling power. Every land drop is absolutely bonkers in ramp strategies. The Final Fantasy crossover hype doesn't hurt either. Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier, Sephiroth, One-Winged Angel, up $5.47. Sephiroth is climbing because Final Fantasy fans are going absolutely crazy for these crossover cards, and he's basically the poster boy of the entire set. Plus, he's actually playable in Angel and Transform decks, so it's not just collectors driving the hype. Krang, Utrom Warlord, up $3.56. Artifact Creature Tribal is getting some serious love lately, and this thing turns your entire robot army into flying indestructible threats. The novelty factor of the TMNT crossover doesn't hurt either. Collectors are still chasing these alternate universe cards. Elspeth, Stormslayer, up $3.25. Token doublers are always popular in Commander, and this Elspeth does it, while also being a solid mid-range threat. White creature decks are getting more support lately, so people are buying in before she gets more expensive. Plaza of Heroes, up $3.22. Plaza's spiking because legendary creature strategies are getting tons of new support lately. The protection ability is clutch in competitive metas, where removal is everywhere. Michelangelo, Weirdness to 11, up $2.39. Counters Matter decks are getting more popular, and doubling +1/+1 counters for just 2 mana is pretty busted. Plus, who doesn't want a Ninja Turtle leading their green deck? Super Shredder, up $2.31. Super Shredder's getting some love, because people are realizing how insane that counter ability gets in sacrifice-heavy metas. With all the treasure and clue tokens floating around, this thing grows stupid fast and has built-in evasion. Cloud, Midgar Mercenary, up $2.18. Equipment decks are getting more love lately, and Cloud's double trigger ability is absolutely nuts with the right setup. Plus, anything Final Fantasy themed has that collectible premium that keeps demand steady. Quantum Riddler, up $2.14. Sphinx Tribal players are starting to recognize this as a solid card draw engine, plus that warp ability gives it some unexpected utility in competitive shells. Chronicle of Victory, up $2.12. Tribal decks are getting some love lately, and this thing turns any creature type into a serious threat. 6 mana for a permanent anthem plus card draw is exactly what casual Commander players are looking for. Dracogenesis, up $2.10. Dragon Tribal players are going absolutely nuts for this after realizing it's basically a free dragon enabler in red. With all the new dragon support we've been getting lately, this enchantment suddenly looks like a budget omniscience for scaly boys. Peter Parker's Camera, up $2.04. Players are realizing this is basically a repeatable copy engine for your best abilities at just 1 mana to cast. The film counter design makes it way more powerful than it looks since you get 3 uses right away. Renee, Temporal Apprentice, up $2.02. Renee is basically a flash counterspell on a stick that bounces entire combo turns, and people are finally realizing how busted that effect is in competitive Commander. The universe's beyond hype doesn't hurt either when you're getting premium interactions stapled to a decent body. Traveling Chocobo, up $1.99. Bird tribal strategies are getting some serious love lately, and this gives you crazy card selection plus doubles your landfall triggers. The ability to play lands from the top, plus that extra trigger, is making it a sleeper hit in green decks. Mirrormind Crown, up $1.90. Token decks are finally realizing this turns every treasure, food, or clue into a copy of your best creature. It's basically a budget doubling season that works with any token generation, not just creature tokens. A-Tier and Prywin, up $1.72. Life gain decks are getting spicy new tools, and suddenly turning your life total into raw power looks pretty appealing. Plus, anything that can make a 40/40 creature in Commander gets people's attention real quick. Buster Sword, up $1.69. Buster Sword's been climbing because equipment decks are getting more love lately, and that free spell trigger on combat damage is just nasty in the right shell. People are finally realizing this does way more than just pump your creature. The Wind Crystal, up $1.59. White life gain decks are getting more competitive love lately, and this thing does everything they want in one package. The cost reduction plus doubling life gain triggers makes it an auto-include that was probably underpriced before. Donatello, Mutant Mechanic, up $1.46. Artifact decks are getting some love lately, and this turns your mana rocks into legitimate threats. The counter-moving ability is perfect for those grindy artifact value engines that are picking up steam. Steam Vents, up $1.44. Steam Vents is probably getting picked up due to rotation speculation or some new Is-It deck putting up results. Dual lands like this always spike when blue-red strategies get popular. The Earth Crystal, up $1.40. Green ramp and +1/+1 counter strategies are both super popular in Commander right now, and this does both at a really efficient rate. The doubling effect is just bonkers with all the counter-based commanders people are building around. Geneva, Ancient Calamity, up $1.34. Mutant Tribal is finally getting some love in Commander, and this is one of the better enablers that turns your whole board into card draw engines. The Final Fantasy hype is also keeping these cards hot right now. Ugin, Eye of the Storms, up $1.30. Ugin's seeing renewed interest as colorless ramp strategies get more support. Plus, this promo version has that collector appeal that keeps it moving upward. Michelangelo, Improviser, up $1.28. Ninja Tribal has been picking up steam lately, and putting creatures directly into play is always powerful in Commander. The sneak ability gives it flexibility, while the combat damage trigger can be absolutely explosive in the right shell. The Ooze, up $1.24. The +1/+1 counter synergies are getting some love in the current meta, and this artifact slots perfectly into those decks as both a payoff and graveyard hate. Plus, anything from the TMNT set has that collector appeal driving up demand. Summon, Behemoth, up $1.24. Sagas are getting more support in recent sets, and this one doubles as a huge flying threat with a game-ending ability. The Final Fantasy crossover hype is still driving demand for the splashier cards from that set. Hexing Squelcher, up $1.23. Anti-counterspell tech is getting hot right now, as more players are building around protecting their key pieces. The fact that it gives everything ward makes it a solid political deterrent in multiplayer games too. Gwen Stacy, watch it, Ghost Spider, up $1.19. Spider-Verse hype is real, and this transform mechanic is pretty unique for Marvel cards. Casual players love the flavor, and she's actually decent in superhero tribal builds. Clive, Ifrit's Dominant, Ifrit, Warden of Inferno, up $1.13. Clive's been climbing because players are realizing this transform commander has some serious versatility for fight-based strategies. The Final Fantasy hype is still carrying these unique designs higher as people experiment with the new mechanics. Diabolic Intent, up $1.13. Diabolic Intent is seeing renewed interest as players rediscover how busted a 2-mana tutor really is in creature-heavy commander decks. Sacrifice synergies are everywhere right now, making this old gem feel fresh again. Dark Leo and Shredder, up $1.11. Ninja Tribal is getting some serious love lately, and this gives you both a solid commander option and a nasty win condition once you hit that 5 ninja threshold. The Death Touch synergy is just gravy on top of what's already a pretty pushed tribal payoff. Rat King, Verminister, up $1.08. Rat tribal enthusiasts are finally waking up to how busted this engine gets with sacrifice outlets. The ability to mass reanimate entire playsets is getting some serious brewing attention. Doubling Season, up $1.07. Doubling Season always climbs when people realize how broken it is with planeswalkers and token strategies. The TMNT printing probably reminded a bunch of players this card exists, and they're scrambling to pick up copies. Summon Primal Odin, up $1.06. Saga creatures are still pretty novel, and this one packs serious punch with that instant win combat damage ability. The Final Fantasy crossover hype is keeping demand strong on the flashier cards from the set. Chrome Dome, up $1.06. Chrome Dome's getting love from artifact players who realized it's a solid budget commander for copycat token strategies. The TMNT novelty factor doesn't hurt either when you're making an army of robot ninjas. Lightning, Army of One, up $1.04. Lightning's damage doubling ability is starting to catch fire in aggressive commander decks that can reliably connect for combat damage. The triple keyword package makes it surprisingly hard to deal with once it gets rolling. High Perfect Morcant, up $1.04. Elf tribal players are finally realizing this is a powerhouse commander that doubles as both tribal payoff and counter synergy engine. The proliferate ability is pure gas and +1/+1 counter decks, and the price is catching up to the hype. Raphael Ninja Destroyer, up $1.04. Raphael spiking because people are realizing that Enrage ability is basically a ritual engine in the right shell. Combat damage doublers and self-damage outlets turn this turtle into a serious mana generator for explosive red plays. Dawnsire, Sunstar Dreadnought, up $1.03. Spacecraft Tribal is gaining serious traction in Commander, and this is one of the few legendary options that can helm those decks. The 100 damage ability is absolutely bonkers once you get it online, so people are buying in before it gets too expensive. Bleachbone Verge, up $1.01. Solid dual land from the new set that's seeing play across multiple formats. Budget players are snatching these up since good mana, fixing always holds value. The Darkness Crystal, up 94 cents. Black Devotion decks are getting more popular, and this gives you both cost reduction and a repeatable steal effect. The life gain mode, turning into threat conversion, is exactly what slower black decks want right now. Craterhoof Behemoth, up 90 cents. Craterhoof is the ultimate green finisher in Commander, and with more players building go-wide token strategies, demand just keeps climbing. Plus, this thing never gets meaningfully reprinted, so any spike in popularity hits the price hard. Call the Spirit Dragons, up 89 cents. 5-color Dragon Tribal is getting some serious brewing attention lately, and this gives you both protection and an actual win condition. The alternate win con is catching people's eye as a spicy finisher for those big mana dragon decks. Moonshadow, up 86 cents. Graveyard-based decks are getting more popular, and this grows into a serious threat once you start filling your yard. Plus, sacrifice strategies love having a cheap creature that actually gets better when your stuff dies. Swamp, up 85 cents. This is pure collector speculation. People are betting that Tarkir Dragonstorm basics will be scarce since it's looking like a smaller print run set. Even basic lands can spike when supply gets tight and the art hits just right. The Fire Crystal, up 85 cents. Red aggro decks are getting spicy new tools in the upcoming set, and this artifact slots perfectly into those shells. The cost reduction plus haste enabler combo is exactly what aggressive players have been looking for. Susur Secundi, Void Altar, up 84 cents. Void Altar is spiking because players are realizing how busted that card draw engine gets with high power creatures and sacrifice decks. Once you get it online, saxing a big threat to refuel your hand is absolutely nuts value. Bloodline Bidding, up 83 cents. Tribal decks are getting a huge boost from recent spoilers, and this lets you cheat an entire graveyard back into play with Convoke making it surprisingly affordable. The perfect storm of tribal hype and powerful reanimation effect. Eden, Seed of the Sanctum, up 83 cents. Eden's utility land ability to get any permanent back from the graveyard is way more flexible than people initially realized. Commander players are catching on that this fixes so many problems for just 5 mana. Memories Returning, up 83 cents. Final Fantasy nostalgia is driving huge demand for these crossover cards, and this one's actually a solid card draw engine that blue decks want. The flashback ability makes it playable twice, which is always appealing to Commander players looking for repeatable value. Marilyn, Fey Ascendant, up 76 cents. Tribal players are going nuts for this because it's basically a free spell engine stapled to an elf lord. The ability to cast opponents' cards for free scales perfectly with how wide tribal decks want to go anyway. Voice of Victory, up 74 cents. Voice of Victory is spiking because that opponents can't cast spells during your turn effect is absolutely backbreaking in competitive metas. The Mobilize ability makes it a solid threat while also providing a brutal stacks effect that shuts down interaction. Nibelheim, Aflame, up 72 cents. Board wipe effects that can be cast twice are always solid in Commander, and this one's getting picked up as people realize the flashback mode basically refills your hand. The Final Fantasy crossover hype is probably adding some collector premium too. Ashling, Rekindled, Ashling, Rhymebound, up 69 cents. Ashling's double-face design is getting casual players hyped for transform synergies. Plus, Fire Ice Elemental Tribal has some surprisingly dedicated fans brewing new decks. Rise of the Dark Realms, up 68 cents. Rise of the Dark Realms is spiking because it's one of the most powerful reanimation spells in Commander, and the Final Fantasy printing has gorgeous alternate art that players want. Big splashy effects like this always see demand spikes when new players discover how busted it is in casual games. Curious Colossus, up 67 cents. This massive creature shutdown effect is getting attention as a meta answer to all the crazy value creatures running around. Players are realizing it's basically a one-sided board wipe that turns threats into harmless 1/1 on Ishgard, the Holy Sea, Faith and Grief, up 67 cents. Final Fantasy crossover hype is real, and players are grabbing up the coolest looking cards from the set. Adventure lands are also naturally appealing to Commander players who love versatility. Breeding Pool, up 66 cents. Breeding Pool from Edge of Eternity's promos is seeing some love because dual lands from special promo sets tend to hold premium value. The slight uptick is probably collectors and players wanting the fancier version over regular reprints. Riverpire Verge, up 66 cents. Solid dual lands always see steady growth, and this one's getting picked up by budget Commander players who want reliable mana fixing. The promo printing probably has lower supply than people expected too. Willow Rush Verge, up 66 cents. Dual lands from new sets always get early speculation, and this one's seeing play in budget multicolored decks that need reliable fixing. The promo version is probably getting extra attention from collectors who like the special treatment. Check TCG Player for current prices, link in description.